Welcome again. This is Module 5, Teacher and Educational Community Involvement. And in this module, we will look at the teaching attitudes required and the practical implications for effective, inclusive education for learners with rare diseases. And we will give you a bunch of useful websites. So now we are going to make a little bit of introduction, speaking about interventions. Interventions from the teacher's perspectives could be or seeing it as a set of steps to help a student with needs, but we can also see it from another perspective, which is to understand intervention as a process of steps to improve some of the needs of all the entire student's body. So how does the teacher intervene? We would like to say that we form people, we train our students, and therefore when we talk about intervention, we mean creating and designing a successful training process, and it is considered that all students can be successful. That means we want all our students to reach the maximum of their abilities and to strengthen them. So teachers are the first professional people to make this possible, and therefore we have a responsibility to achieve this. We want the presence, the participation, and the progress of all of them. So another thing that is implicit in the intervention, and it's very important, is the familiar context. It's important to know the context of the student, and we need to work together with the family. If we do not go together, it will be difficult to reach the excellence in the process. So we could see the intervention as an action aimed at responding to the different educational needs that the students may present, and that encompasses different resources, proposals, and modifiable and flexible practices for any adaptation needed. So also it is very important how we see people with disabilities and people with rare diseases in concrete. How we understand the person or students with disability depends on the more magnifying glass with which we look at it. So depending on how we understand them, we can speak of two perspectives. One is the contextual or global perspective. We need that we understand that the problem is in the context of the person with the disability or with the rare disease, and therefore our intervention is focused on identifying those barriers and removing them, modifying this context with the aim of achieving the development of the autonomy of each person and development to the maximum of all capacities, as we said before. So on the other hand, we see the individual perspective, and on this one we put the burden of the problem on the person. So we understand that it is the person who has the difficulty, and therefore we cannot make a quality intervention. This is the perspective that has been rooted in education for many years and has many prejudices. So currently we find a felt need to change this paradigm toward the global perspective, the contextual perspective, as we said. So we can choose from which perspective we will work. So what perspectives will we choose? Will it be the perspectives of the children with a problem, which has to make the effort to follow with the rest of the class, or the perspective of a children that can achieve the best of their abilities or capacities if we change their context? When we find ourselves with children with rare diseases in our classrooms or in our work, we need to consider the importance of networking. We need to see the teaching process as a community challenge, and we will need to raise awareness among students, families, the educational community, and with whomever necessary. So related to this, the smallest details are the most important, such as community language. It is important to create inclusive language across the board. We also need to be open-minded and to seek innovation and transformative practices. For all of that, and for a good intervention with children with rare diseases, we need to ask ourselves how will we bring the actors together, how will we bring the actions and the methodologies together. We can search for spaces of cooperation or generate them for the actors who try to respond collaboratively in the projects we will carry on. So we must move from the transaction self-interest to the relationship, community interest. So we could think about interconnected projects. It is very useful to establish patterns of how different people live the same reality, to listen to those that are affected by the reality of rare diseases, in short, how the affected live it, but also how others see it from the outside. So we hope this is helpful for you, and we'll let you look a little bit into this module.